I haven't talked to anyone, whether it's in the SEC media or the national media, that is not a fan of Alex Golesh to Auburn.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
To Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out Locked On SEC. Locked On SEC's Chris Gordy hanging out with us for a few minutes here. I want to talk about, reasonable expectations in the first-year schedule for Alex Golesh, but you're one of seemingly everyone that covers the SEC that likes this hire for Auburn. I know there were talks of, John Summerall to Auburn. Obviously, he goes to Florida, and there were so many different things that happened those last few days leading up to that Sunday where kind of everybody fell into their new spots. But Alex Golesh, it seems like most people are a fan of Auburn landing Alex Golesh. Your thoughts?
Yeah, it feels like most people, if you're being objective and just looking at what he did at USF, combined with his track record with working with Heupel at Tennessee, I think you can't dispute he's a great offensive mind. And so you feel like, what's been Auburn's biggest problem these last couple of years? It's been inability to find and develop a great quarterback, and also, play calling and offensive philosophy, and, not being able to, get yardage, but not being able to find the end zone and get points. So you feel like Golesh is going to be able to do that. So that's why we like the hire. Now, that said, you look at this whole hiring cycle, I think for the most part, everybody you talk to says people think Lane Kiffin's going to be, not off the field, but on the field, going to be really good at LSU.
Makes sense. Yeah.
You think that people in Florida are loving the John Summerall hire so far. You look at, Arkansas, people were kind of poo-pooing the Silverfield hire at first, and then when they heard him talk and getting buy-in on a lot of guys to stay, even Arkansas fans are optimistic right now. So there's always optimism when you make a coaching hire. So look, is there reason to be excited if you're an Auburn fan? Absolutely, but the proof is in the pudding. You got to go prove it. But again, to me, just knowing Golesh and I've followed him a little bit closer these last couple of years because we have a niece who's a cheerleader at USF. So my wife's been to a ton of games, and my sister-in-law's, she's at every game, and so we've watched a little bit more. And then we got to see him up and close against Alabama, 2 years in a row. So it's I've seen him probably a little bit more than others, and everybody you talk to just says this guy's a badass, man. Like he and his expectations, his what he does behind the scenes, kicking guys in the butt when they need it. You love everything you've heard about Golesh so far.
Yeah, which. You talk about Auburn needing, that kick in the tail on offense, culturally, this is a guy who, I guess he had a second public presser earlier this week, Gordy, and just the way he speaks and the way he answers these questions, everything is so thought out and intentional. When you look at what happened under the Freeze era, communication seemed to be an inconsistency, and then details of things just slipping through the cracks continued to be an issue. Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a thing with Alex Golesh.
And think of this. I think we're kind of getting rid of, I don't know if I call it the good old boy club, but when you consider Brian Kelly, who did not succeed at LSU, was in his 60s. Mm-hmm. Hugh Freeze, did not work at Auburn. He's 56. Look at this influx of these new coaches. Alex Golesh is 41. Will Stein has just got hired at Kentucky. He's 35. We're resetting the mark here, going, you know what? The old has-beens, the journeymen, the rugged coaches that have done this for decades, we're getting away from that. Let's get with the younger guys, because in this new age of portal and NIL, now more than ever, you got to relate to these players. And nothing against Hugh, but I think the relating to players, you kind of lose that when you get up there in age. And, suddenly when you're Brian Kelly and you're Hugh Freeze and you're more concerned about, hey, what time's my tea time tomorrow? Than you are, hey, we got to be in the office till 4 a.m. on the phone with all these kids. It's a younger man's game now. And that's what encourages me a little bit more about Golesh.
Golesh has been very consistent with what his priority is, maintaining and keeping the roster. And there's been a few guys that have, come out and said that they're going to plan on entering the portal January 2nd when it opens. Perry Thompson, Horatio Fields, interesting names, but replaceable.
Yeah.
It comes down to, okay, like there are a few guys on this roster that people are going to really be focused on. Cam Coleman, an obvious one. Eric Singleton, I think, and Malcolm Simmons, I think, are definitely interesting. And then, you look at what Xavier Atkins did last season, being an all SEC linebacker that was announced by the league yesterday. Jay Crawford at corner is a guy that I'm really, really high on. I think he needs to be a priority. I don't think we fully know what the first month of Alex Golesh, if it's going to be a success or not, until we see who doesn't enter the portal.
Yeah. And look, there's going to be attrition. There just is. When you make a coaching change, I get it. You get attached to certain players. You were so excited because you followed this kid's recruitment. When he was 16, 17, he agreed to come to Auburn, and now you're like attached to him. You're like, no, we can't lose this kid. It's going to happen. I'm sorry. Newsflash, you're going to lose some of these kids. Yeah. It is what it is. The hope is that you're going to bring in some players that will replace those guys. But, don't freak out. I think that's the first message. But, yeah, to your point, to me, Cam Coleman is the most important one. And, to me, Auburn did their due diligence here. They've taken care of the kid with NIL deals. I think there's already been discussions behind closed doors with his reps about what would it take to keep him. But wandering eye too, right? I mean, he is a kid that is an elite talent. And you look around at Ohio State that's got Jeremiah Smith and these other big time, playmakers out there. The wandering eye could get a little bit, I could go up there and be the next Jeremiah Smith. So, you never know. Money talks, but yeah. I would think that the Auburn faithful are willing to write that check for whatever it takes to keep him. Now, within reason. There's a certain line you get to. You know what, bro? For that amount of money, we'll find the next Cam Coleman. We'll figure it out. But I do think he's priority one. What happens with the quarterback will be very interesting. We already know Arnold's back in the portal, and I think his days in the SEC are done. I think he's going to go to.
I read that Mississippi State was going to be interested.
Well, they're probably the only one that he could keep him in the SEC. But I've said all along, I think he needs
that's
to
a Levy tie. Is that what that is?
Yeah, I think go down a level though. Big 12. I think he'd be a kick-ass Big 12.
I think he should go to the Big 12 too. I agree.
Look at what Connor Wegman did this year at Houston. He leaves Texas A&M. He was a stud at Houston this year. So yeah. I think Arnold could find himself at a school like that. But we'll see what happens there. But again, yeah, I think priority number one is Cam Coleman. To your point, like I loved Perry Thompson, but you knew when you signed all three of them, Coleman, Simmons, and Thompson, that you weren't going to be able to keep all three, right? Because you're only going to have really two guys that are your stud one. Okay, that's our one and that's our two. When somebody's playing the third fiddle, it's hard to keep them. So, and the Eric Singleton thing, I was thinking he was a senior. He was only a junior, so him with another year would be huge. So those are kind of how I would prioritize it.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I agree. How quickly can Alex Golesh win at Auburn? He said they're in a race against themselves. Is that feasible with this first year schedule? That's next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. NFL Sundays, they move fast. One big play, and then suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. And, of course, the same with college basketball as well. The Auburn Tigers take on Chattanooga on Saturdays, part of the Holiday Hoops Giving. That line is not out yet, but we'll definitely talk about it when it drops. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. Chris Gordy, the host of Locked On SEC, hanging out with us. Alex Golesh, he wants to win now. There's no asking for patience. He understands that the assumption, the expectation at Auburn is for you to win now. Very different messaging than what we've heard the last few years. Also, the situation he's coming into, like we're all bashing Freeze and talking about how it didn't work, but he did leave Auburn better than he found it. Like the roster that he left is much better than the one he inherited. So, Auburn folks, thank him for that. But like Gordy, when you look at who Auburn's got on their schedule this year, they're 3, protected opponents, hosting Vandy, at Bama, at Georgia, then hosting Arkansas, Florida, and LSU, and then going to Ole Miss, to Mississippi State, and to Tennessee. Some of those, there are more question marks around them now than there were when these opponents in the schedule was kind of created and made public, but still difficult. Do you think this is more difficult than others, or is this just like everybody's playing 9 SEC games now? There's no way it's going to be easy.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough, but we've seen the ebbs and flows of the SEC schedule. I mean, last year, Texas got the benefit of, first year in the SEC, had a little bit of a more cakewalk of a schedule, and that's how they were able to get to Atlanta. A&M got it this year, and unfortunately, their one tough game with the upper echelon of the SEC teams was against Texas. They lost it, and then that kept them with tiebreakers out of Atlanta. But A&M still in a great chance, going to the playoff and all that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a daunting schedule when we talk about permanent opponents and all that, and we want to keep the rivalry with Alabama, we want to keep the rivalry with Georgia. Okay, great, but those are huge 2 potential L's every year for Auburn. The more you want to keep them, it's funny. I remember talking with our guy Matt Moscona, locked on LSU, and I said, we were discussing who do you want as your 3 permanents. He goes, I'll take Mississippi State, Vandy, and whoever. Like he's like, I want the easiest path. Like, forget this tradition and rivalry.
Oh yeah, no, I'm with you. I wanted Vandy, Kentucky, and Mississippi State, please. Thank you.
Again, for any Auburn fans, like, it's tradition. We got rivalry with Georgia and Alabama. Okay, just be careful, because when those are the 2 L's that keep you out of the playoff, and you go 8-4 every year, and it's like, oh man, if we just didn't play them, we'd be 10-2. And so I just caution everybody with that. It's like, you want to play the best, but just remember, you got to be the best then if that's the case. But depending on when people are watching this, obviously Thursday night, we're going to get the actual dates on how the schedule is going to set up. And to me, that's as important as who you're playing, because let's just say there's a backstretch of the schedule, Zach. Let's just say hypothetically they make this thing in November. You're going to Tennessee, to Ole Miss, and to Alabama, like 3 out of your last 4 on the road against tough opponents. That to me makes me think, oh, this is much tougher than, say, you get, Tennessee in October, and they're a little bit more spread out.
Yeah. Yeah, like what happens with Ole Miss? What happens with LSU? Like, how quickly does LSU and Lane Kiffin hit the ground running? Like, all signs point to that should be quick.
Yeah, I mean, come on. He's been the portal king at Ole Miss. Right. And the whole selling point to come to LSU was $25 million NIL. He's going to have the number 1 class at LSU. And I mean, yeah, they don't have a quarterback right now, but guess what? He's going to figure that out. He does it every year.
They'll get one. There are going to be some. Maybe it's Jackson Arnold. I'm joking. No. Do you think it's reasonable, though, to expect Golesh to win year 1 at Auburn? And let's say 8-4 or better.
Right.
Let's define it. 8-4 or better.
Yeah, you got to define what win is, because
correct. Yeah.
Here's the thing: if they go 7-5, but the offense is averaging 30 points a game, and they lose a couple games on last-second field goals, to me, I mean, like 7-5 doesn't look pretty, but you go, oh man, look how improved we are. We're right there. If we tweak a few things, we're going to be awesome next year. So that's where I kind of say, like,
and you finally have an identity on offense again for the first time since 2017, I guess.
That's what the hope is. That's what you want to see. And so again, what does that equal in win total? It could be anything from 7-5 to 9-3 to 10-2, on the high end. But just know this schedule. I mean, Dave Aranda is going to be coaching for his life next year at Baylor. So he is going to do everything he can to get this team turned around and ready to go next year. So don't just be penciling in an easy W in week 1 next year for Auburn. I think you're going to get a really good Baylor team.
And you're giving out some home field advantage with that, right? With it being moved to Atlanta. So we'll see what that looks like too.
So, but don't discount that one. But then, I mean, again, the rest of the schedule. But if I just told any SEC opponent, your schedule this year, you got to go to Tuscaloosa, you got to go to Athens, right there. You're going, well, those are 2 losses. And then, we'll see what Tennessee is always going to be tough. I mean, going to Neyland is not easy.
It'll be, I mean, it's him going back to Knoxville, right? So,
right.
I mean, that's
So
going to have some
that's gonna be
flair
tough.
to it. Yeah.
We'll see what Ole Miss looks like. I don't think they're going to be as good with
Agreed.
T. Golding. At Mississippi State is seemingly like the arrow's pointing upward. They're getting better. So I think they're a potential 7-5 team next year. And then yes, home games against LSU going to be tough. Florida again. We'll see what Summerall does. Is Lagway back?
Is Lagway there? If you had to guess right now, is Lagway in that game?
See, I was told a couple years ago that A&M was going to come after him hard, but Marcel Reed already said he's coming back next year, so that's out the window. I think Florida could probably pay him the most to stay, so he'll probably end up staying.
I mean, or is that a candidate for Lane? At LSU, a guy like Lagway to make a big splash.
See, I think Lane's going to go after his two quarterbacks he had at Ole Miss first. If Trinidad Chambliss gets the waiver for an extra year, I think he or Austin Simmons makes a lot of sense there. We've also heard the Arizona State quarterback
Levitt.
Sam Levitt. So, but anyway, but Arkansas, Florida, and Vandy, you're hopefully catching in a transition year, right? Vandy going from Pavia sounds like the 5-star Jared Curtis is going to get a chance to show what he can do. But as we know, true freshman quarterbacks in the SEC go through growing pains. So hopefully you catch them on a transition year and you take care of business there. But my point being, just big picture, look at the schedule. Zach, being objective, I'm seeing 3, if not 4 losses right out of the gate. Again, so 8-4, and the offense looks much improved. I think that's a win. You got to take that for
Who were the 4 out of the gate? Bama, Georgia, you got Tennessee on there, and LSU. Are those your 4?
Those are kind of my 4. Yeah, just kind of right off the bat.
Yeah, if you had to pick. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, it's like, can you win all the other ones, or can you steal one of those? Like, maybe we'll see. A lot of it depends on, do you keep this roster together? That's his priority. We'll see if he nails that or not. Chris Gordy, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Yeah, Locked On SEC, wherever you get your podcasts. And man, we got a ton of stuff. We're keeping you guys up to date on all the coaching changes around the conference. Obviously, we're starting to hear guys of names with the intent to enter the portal. They're basically entering the portal, but that's starting to flow in already. And I mean, it's going to be crazy because we only get one portal, Zach. It's less than a month away. So it's going to be hot and heavy portal talk for the next 30 days. So
a crucial portal window, no question about it. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.